3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights, and we are go! Go, go, go! It's the 2019 Formula One World Championship, Race 1, Australia. Not the most exciting of tracks we've ever been to, but nonetheless, it's a start. And I'm so glad and excited to see this year up and running. So welcome, everybody. Welcome, Fabio.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good, very good. I stayed up all night in order to catch the beginning. Fortunately, I didn't fall asleep, not until lap 2. Which is pretty damn good, but I have rewatched the race, and fantastic, of course. I'm over the moon for the young kid, Valtteri, over the moon for him. And the excuses coming from Mercedes, they started as soon as the race had finished, if not before. Brilliant, brilliant. And if that's saying it politely for Mercedes, it was even worse for Ferrari. So there's a lot to get through this chat. So yeah, how did you find the race?
I don't know. I mean, it was interesting. I really don't know what to say. I mean, it was. I mean, it was. I think it was okay. You know.
Yeah,
As far as Australia goes, it's a weird track. It's a weird race. We all remember what happened last year. So yeah, it's kind of. It's kind of bizarre. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's although it's a fun place to go to, there's never much going on in terms of the racing at this circuit, and also it's not very representative of the general form of the year.
Yeah.
So we always get to Australia and go, oh wow, we're going to find out which cars are in the league, but we never do. We never do.
No.
So. Yeah, what can be taken from this race is very difficult. What we can say is Valtteri Bottas is very determined, and both the second and third Ferrari drivers are definitely not the leading contenders for Ferrari. So that's the only things that are certain.
There are a couple of interesting facts about Australia, and I mean it's very recent facts, so I will not say it's a statistics, but in recent years, whoever won the Australian race never won the championship, and the last one which won the Australian race and won the championship was Nico Rosberg. So, I mean, if I were Lewis Hamilton, I would not be really happy about that.
Yeah, I would agree, but. Lewis did allegedly have floor damage.
Yeah, I read about that.
So there's a reason that his pace was a bit off. Plus, I feel that Mercedes jumped and made a wrong jump with strategy. When Vettel pitted, I don't know why Vettel pitted so early, but he did. Obviously, Mercedes then covered off his pit stop with Lewis, and this turned out to be a major mistake. So
I have some thoughts about all that.
Go ahead.
Okay, it might be a little bit long-winded, so you stop me when I get boring, which is now. But
don't create my jokes.
Okay, this is the thing. And it's all tied, I think, to the performances of the car. I think that one of the factors. Well, okay, let me start from the beginning. The tests in Barcelona. I will say that I don't think they were a fluke. I think they were consistent with what the cars actually perform. You mentioned, Lewis pitting just after Vettel for the tires. I think that the main reason was that the Mercedes was really surprised about the poor performance of Ferrari in Australia, and they were not sure that those were the real performances, and so that they decided to cover Vettel with Lewis. which in hindsight, it was a mistake. It was a mistake for several reasons from both of them. And one of the reasons, we'll go in some other reasons if you want later on, but one of the reasons is that I think that they are all dealing with the tires as if they are last year tires. Bottas, I think, pitted 14 laps after Lewis, and he was lapping faster on used tires than Hamilton on new tires and Vettel on new tires. So the tires are different, but it seems to me they did not take that into proper consideration. That I think was one of the factors and one of the reasons why they decided to cover Sebastian pit strategy with Lewis. Because if they were sure about the pace of the car and how the tires were going, they would have never done that. Because Bottas was going way faster, and he showed up to be way faster with used tires for a huge amount of laps after they pitted. So I don't know if you agree with me on that point.
Yeah, I generally would agree with you. They were unsure, and Mercedes, played the cautionary route and covered off Vettel, which is what you would tend to do strategy-wise in virtually any race. I think maybe, and I'm not sure about this, but potentially the fact that the tyre warmers are 20% cooler in the rear than they used to be may be a factor this year in whether the undercut really works.
Maybe. No, you're right. Maybe. But, the thing that I was trying to point out is that regardless of the fact, I mean, they fucked up something with the tires. They didn't took them in proper consideration.
Yeah.
They didn't, have enough data from Barcelona to figure out that they were, behaving in a different way. I don't know exactly what it was. But the fact is that I think there are two interesting facts. That both Mercedes and Ferrari fucked up in the very same way, and I think that's telling, And the second thing is that I think that Mercedes wasn't really sure that Ferrari at such a slower pace than they did. Actually, it's really interesting if you see the times up until the first pit. Vettel wasn't that far in times, from Lewis and Bottas too.
Yeah, I agree.
Bottas was able to have a huge lead in those 14 laps, where it was consistently faster with used tires, and I think that was something which took everybody by surprise. So I don't know. I think that's a major factor. But as you said, Australia is really a funny track. It's hardly the milestone that you can judge performances through the year.
There was one extra thing, which was afterwards Grosjean said that the tyre construction was virtually the same, and this is what was going to make it difficult to overtake this year. In that once you get behind a car, the front tires slide all over the road and they very quickly go off. So it's interesting that Valtteri was the one that stayed on his tires the longest, and obviously suffered less degradation, and therefore potentially could put in those times. So I don't think it's necessarily cut and dry yet whether we're going to have good tires this year, as it seems from Valtteri's drive, right? So again, I think there's a huge question mark now. I think it's going to force all the teams to run really the softest compound they possibly can, virtually every race now. So I think I don't think we're going to see many hard tires this year at all.
That's another thing. I'm not really sure about that either, because again, the track in Australia is quite bizarre. They don't race it every year. They have the tire is not properly ready up until basically on Sunday, because there is no tire on the track. So again, I really don't know. That's it's a strange scenario, and
for sure that track is just unrepresentative, and
yes,
we really won't know. and even Bahrain is as well to some degree because of the amount of dust that gets on the track. So we generally don't know till China, but we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah.
Even Malaysia, really, to be honest. But we shall see how that goes. So basically, I guess the next thing to talk about then is Ferrari not allowing Leclerc to pass Vettel. What did you make of that?
I think it was okay. I don't think. I mean, they were fighting for the fourth and fifth place, and I mean, Leclerc was probably faster than Vettel, probably.
Definitely faster.
Well, it was faster in gaining Vettel. That's true. It is also true that after he got Vettel, took an advantage of 3 to 4 seconds. So it is not really that clear if Sebastian was just pacing. He apparently has some problems, and I want to go back on that aspect because I think it's important. But I wouldn't make a big fuss about it. It's fourth and fifth. There was nothing to be gained by anybody, and I don't think that was much big of an issue. The thing that I'm pissed about is that, in my opinion, they should have pitted Leclerc and tried to have him, have the fast lap.
I would agree. Completely
This
agree.
is something that they should have done. And and they said, oh, we did it because, it's always a risk in pitting and stuff like that. But hey, I mean, it's F1. You got to take risks, right? I mean, it's not, I mean, if you get too conservative, everybody's going to be all over you. And that's
just think if they'd had pitted Leclerc and Lewis had pit to cover him off, then potentially Sebastian would have got second.
I think, yes, that's an insight, but I think there is another reason why they didn't do that, and I think, and this is all my hypothesis. I have nothing to base on it rather than the news that everybody has on the reason why they didn't that, and it's tied to the poor performances of Ferrari. And again, I got to go back to Barcelona, especially the second test. And during the second test, Ferrari apparently had some reliability issues, and we don't know what kind of issues they had. But if there were, for example, issues related to temperatures, what I think it has happened in Australia, and we got to take into consideration everything we said before about the strange track and all that jazz. But if it's true that Ferrari had some reliability issues in Barcelona, it might be the case that they tune it down the car a little bit because they want to play to play on the safe side. That would explain also why they didn't want Leclerc to have a fast lap, because they were thinking reliability was way more important than than making a fast lap.
Yeah.
And I think it might be the case that they basically they took Australia as an extension of the test to figure out some problems that they might have in Barcelona. It's all ifs and probably and stuff, but it's kind of a picture that makes sense. Sorry.
That would make sense to me as well, because not only did they ask Leclerc not to overtake, but they also asked him to fall back a little bit to give himself space. So that would indicate that they were worried about overheating. Also, I noticed that the engine intake at the top of the car on the Ferrari is absolutely tiny.
There is also the fact, the way that Max Verstappen overtook Vettel, it was fucking embarrassing. I mean, it took away the paint out of the sides of the Ferrari, which is something that you can rarely see, because you can say everything about Ferrari, but they got a proper engine. So the fact that Verstappen was able to overtake Vettel in such a way tells me that probably that engine wasn't running 100%. They were probably on the safe side because they were probably testing some other stuff. They were not really sure about some other things. I don't know, but there might have been something.
Yeah, and potentially. I mean, I think I was amazed by the mid-range punch that Honda gave. I mean, as soon as he opened the wing, he was past the Ferrari.
Yeah.
But as soon as they got up to top speed, the Ferrari was doing equal speed. So obviously, there's no downside in the power. It's the punch that they're lacking, and that would then go along with turning the power down to save some temperatures.
Yeah, and I don't know. It might have also been that they were performing poorly with the tires. It might be,
sure.
But that kind of reasoning might be consistent also with 0.7 of a second that they got in.
Indeed.
So I don't know.
I heard that there was a possible dispute with some parts that they took on the engine that FIA had questioned, and so Ferrari had done that deliberately to remove the parts and not take their best engine there. But I don't know whether that's true or not. It's just a rumor that I heard.
Yeah, I never heard about that, but it might be the case. Anyway, I think that regardless, I don't think that Ferrari was really expecting too much from Australia, but from the fact that they had really good timing in Barcelona. Because, let's be fair, Ferrari performed in Australia exactly as they did last year. They in qualification, they took 0.7 of a second in qualifying, like last year. They were, slower than Mercedes as last year, and the only reason they won last year was because of the pace car, that luck that they had, in the strategy, and the fact, that Bottas' tire exploded. So, I mean, there were things which happened last year which were not. If the things which happened last year did not happen, it would have been exactly the same race as this year.
Yeah, indeed.
So I'm not really that blown away. Of course, the expectations were higher because of the test in Barcelona, but in hindsight, I don't think that was that much of a thing.
Yeah, I don't think we can write off Ferrari just yet. Not certainly not looking at Australia on its own. Okay, so a couple of notable things then for me at the weekend was the speed of Mercedes over one lap in the qualifying. Hamilton did an absolutely stunning lap again. So I'm really pleased about that, of course, because that's his speciality, and that really bodes well for his year, of course, because he's not going to get overtaken every start. However, so yeah, that's great. The second thing was Daniel Ricciardo making a mistake by putting a wheel off the road. To me, it actually looked like Perez was a bit cheeky in terms of trying to close him out.
It was also very unlucky. I mean, there is the thing that Renault. I've noticed that Renault is running a car which has a very high rake on the rear, like the Red Bull.
Yeah.
So the front wing is really close to the ground. And I don't know what the fuck he got into. Probably a mole or some animal, some badger. I have no fucking idea what he got into that.
Well, I think it's so low it could have been a caterpillar for all he knows.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? But there you go.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard afterwards that they. Anyway, let's not go too far down that road. Yeah. Again, unlucky for Ricciardo. Again, I thought the midfield was very disappointing. Really, to be perfectly honest. Again, it shows that it doesn't matter how tight the cars are with each other. You can't overtake in Formula One, so we don't actually want a tight midfield.
They made such a fuss about aerodynamics, and there is something else I want to say about aerodynamics this year. But they made such a fuss about aerodynamics this year because they wanted to have more overtakes. And I've read they had the exact same amount of overtakes as last year. So nothing changed. But let me make one quick point about aerodynamics. I think this year is going to be, especially the first races, is going to be really a problem for a lot of cars, for all of the cars, actually. You mentioned that Hamilton, and I've read it later on. Hamilton had some kind of damage on the car,
floor, yeah.
On the floor. Yeah. What I'm seeing, what I think is that the the change in aerodynamics this year, they made the car so sensible to changes in the setup of the wings and the floors and all the aerial parts. That is quite astonishing, and I think it took a lot of teams by surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, Hamilton had a damage to the floor, but we never seen Hamilton that much slower than Bottas with such a
Sure.
light damage.
Yeah, I think that's a combination though, as well as the
Yeah,
tires, right? So.
but there are other things like, for example, Kubica on Saturday. Kubica on the Williams, he crashed into the wall because, and he said, I don't know what the fuck happened. I got out with the car, and the car was so much better, and we don't know what we did. And the reason I crashed into the wall was because I was so much faster than I basically crashed into the wall. So what I'm saying is that the what it used to be minor changes last year and minor performances this year, they might be way more important, and they might take a lot of teams by surprise.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I mean that's fair enough. I mean I don't believe Kubica at all. I mean I think he stuffed it in the wall and he's covering for himself. I mean remember he also drove into the wall in the pit lane. So I mean, what we said, his performance going into the pits was so good, he just lost it in the pit.
I mean, yeah,
I don't think so, right? I don't buy that for a moment. He was going too fast. What, are you kidding me? In a Formula One car? So no, I think he's just covering his ass there. Although he may have, it may have been true that he suddenly found himself on a good lap and thought, oh yeah, I remember the good old days, and then tried to do more than the car could do.
He wasn't the only one to point out that the car suddenly was faster than before, with no apparent reason at all. So, I mean, that was just, Kubica was just the tip of the iceberg. If that was true, I agree with you. But he wasn't the only one to well, not to complain, but to sound quite astonished because of changes that apparently they made no sense and made the car so much better. So, I mean, I will keep a close eye on how they set up the aerodynamics this year, because I think there is something in the way of the general mix-up, of the bigger wings on the front and the rear that they might make the car way more sensible and to those kind of changes.
Sensitive, yeah.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, yeah. I would also, just to bring in this point quickly. It also looks like the Alfa Romeo Ferrari idea of keeping the wing low on the outside to give more outwash for the front tyres. That looks to be the wrong way to go. But in fact, it's probably going to be more important to have front end downforce than it is to generate rear end downforce. So that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like early to me.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Kimi got 8, so.
Yeah, but he's got a Ferrari engine.
Well, yeah, okay. That's a weird way. I agree with you, but that's as you know, it's way more than just the engine and the drivetrain, because I could tell you the same thing about the Red Bull and the Toro Rosso. So Kiat was ahead of Gasly, and Kia and Gasly could not pass Kiat for the sake of him.
Yeah.
And they got the same engine. So what the fuck is going on there? It's really tricky. So I don't know.
Well, again, Grosjean was saying, it's just as difficult as last year to overtake.
Yeah.
As soon as you get close, your tyres go straight off. So,
Yeah, but you see, I mean, the fact of the engine, I don't think that's the main thing. No, I don't know. I mean,
I think it's got the same rear end as the Ferrari, and if that's the case, then I would expect it to handle better than 8th place. That's for sure. And of course, in some sense, Giovinazzi held everybody up, or at least 3 cars up, to allow Raikkonen to get that place.
Giovinazzi, okay, let me say it right here and be extremely clear. And it breaks my heart, but Giovinazzi was a shame. I mean, I saw him driving. It was embarrassing to see. It was wow, I mean, I was crying because he made things that he's not supposed to be doing. At times, I think it was also dangerous. So I think there is a lot of people which some people have got to have a talk with that guy because he's fast. I mean, he's a nice guy, he's a fast guy, but that race was embarrassing for him. I mean,
Yeah.
there are
Well,
no.
again, I would disagree here. I think, in some sense, that he was trying the right strategy because it was clear that those tyres could go longer, and they should have gone longer with holding the pace. I think the car let him down, actually.
No,
And in that respect, he did give me a service, so I don't think the team particularly minded. But
no, but
I don't think we'll see him doing that again anyway.
no, I'm not talking. No, no, I agree with you on that point. I understand that I probably have been misunderstood. I'm not talking about the strategy. Strategy, I mean, the driver doesn't, has a very minor impact on the strategy. But there were some moves that he made, going left and right during,
Yeah, sure.
braking. That were borderline really dangerous. I mean, if you,
Dude,
I mean,
dude, dude. I've just got to say, Max Verstappen, right?
yes,
I
yeah,
mean,
I was
we've seen it so many times, and this
right.
is his first race, so I certainly wouldn't pull him up on it. Yeah, he did
No, but
move once in the braking zone, but I don't think it was as bad as I've seen other drivers do it, and certainly not as bad as I've seen other rookies do it. So,
no, but you're right. I mean, I'm just saying that because I want to be consistent. I
yeah,
was
fair enough.
criticizing Verstappen last year. I think that Hulkenberg, was terrible last year in some instances. So I got to say the same things about Giovinazzi. I mean, that's just a state of affair. And I understand that probably the reason why he was behaving like that was because of the strategy and the shredded tires that he had at some point. But still, I think that sometimes it was a little bit over extending and possibly dangerous. But if
Yeah,
there are no complaints, fuck it. Who am I to say that?
yeah.
Right?
Well, I think it's been noted. So let's just
Yeah.
say if it happens too many times, then people will start calling him out. But
Yeah.
again, I don't think he's as bad as I've seen some other drivers do.
Yes.
And
I agree.
the drivers he was holding up were all rookies as well, so they didn't seem to even notice it.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I thought, speaking of the other rookies, I thought virtually all of them did well.
Hmm.
Norris was better than I anticipated. He actually
Yes.
drove. He looked to be driving very well.
Yes. I
So
agree.
yeah, I'm quite excited by what he can do in the future.
Yes.
I'm disappointed by the difference in the tyres. Again, we're going to get this problem that there isn't enough of a jump between the tyres to make strategies really work. And I just wish that we could have like two gap between the tires, and not just a one gap. So
No.
that's my main beef,
I,
and is going to be for this season.
I don't, well, I mean, I was waiting for you to complain about the tires. I mean,
Thank you very much.
I've been waiting for you to complain about the tires ever since last race. So that's not, that's not
I know.
anything new.
I'm surprised I didn't mention it in the practice in the
Right,
testing.
right. No, I mean, I don't know about that. I think that the main issue with the tires right now is that they got to figure out that the tires behave in a different way from last year. And once they got that sorted out, they would fall back, in the same shenanigans about, the tires. Right now, I mean, last race was really bizarre. I mean, seeing Bottas pitting that 23rd lap, I think, stuff like that.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
was way faster than people with fresh tires. That was something. Wow, really? That was really bizarre.
Well, not just that. Obviously, on the medium tires, he
Yeah,
also put in the fastest lap of the race,
right. So I
and
don't know.
that was at the end of the stint.
Yeah.
So that's not good. That really is not good. But then again, if Grosjean's right and following a car it has that much effect, then it's going to be a lot of second car tactics, as I said last year. Right, was going on all the time.
Well, I
What
mean, it might also be even more fun. If you got tires which last a long time, you got to see people really racing in a different way and way
Sure.
more, aggressively.
Well,
So
if that is the case, I feel sorry for Leclerc and Leclerc because they're not going to get a look in.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I was quite happy with the way that Leclerc about this weekend.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was fast. It
absolutely.
was
He looked great.
consistent. I mean, if you hear the guy talk, it seems to be he's been in F1 for decades. It's such a
Yeah,
wow. It's really impressive.
he looked really good. He looked really good.
Wow. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
really happy.
and hi Renee out there. Good to see you tune in for us.
Hey, what?
Renee.
Oh, yeah. Well, Hulkenberg got seventh, and
Yes,
we know what happened to Ricciardo. We
indeed.
had we had one engine on fire, which was the Renault on the
Yeah.
McLaren.
The Haas looked good until the stop.
Yeah, they have basically did whatever the fuck they did. Well, I mean, to be fair, I think it was something different from last year.
Undoubtedly, but nonetheless, it's still a tire mistake, front left tire mistake. So
No, I don't think. Well, I think something broke because that didn't happen in the first lap out. With the new tires. I think it was 2 or 3 laps after that. So I think something. But yeah, but again, yeah, it was not funny. I think it was frustrating to see the very
frustrating.
same thing happen. Again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Grosjean
think
must
that
be really pissed off.
well, Grosjean, I think Steiner must be, is still in Australia trying to kill someone with his bare hands.
Yeah, I think he's doing a couple of crocodiles.
Oh
But
yeah, fucking
yeah,
yeah. He's gonna
yeah.
strangle the crocodile with his hands,
Mhm.
probably. So yeah.
Indeed. So yeah, all to play for though. Obviously, nothing decided. It's Australia,
Yeah.
and also it was a warm Australia as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that also bodes quite well because at least the tyres didn't fall off the cliff in hot
Yeah.
weather, which is good news. So
A,
yeah,
a big shout out to the TV because I think that the coverage was fucking amazing. The fact that they were staying for I think 15 laps on the battle for the eighth position. I'm not being sarcastic here. I really love that.
right.
They found a duel. They stick with that and fuck it because that was really, really, really good driving. And it doesn't matter if they're fighting for the eighth place or it's. I'd rather see a good battle,
Yeah,
in the middle rather than see Bottas, piling up, laps all by himself.
yeah,
So
I agree.
that was a very good coverage. I was really happy about that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I would like to have seen Bottas a little more though, just to see how he was driving and compare that to how Vettel and Hamilton were driving. But nonetheless, you're absolutely right. It was really good TV coverage. They covered the whole field,
Mhm.
so all the teams got some exposure, which is really great, especially for
Yes.
the first race. 26 points to Bottas. So obviously he leads the championship.
Hmm.
What do we think about the fastest lap? Just to finish up with.
I think it's interesting, and I think I like the fact that they give it only if you finish uh,
To 10th.
uh, yeah, the tenth. And actually, there is a reason for that. It's really
Oh yeah.
funny because I don't know if you know the story, but I think it was a couple of years ago. I think it
Huh?
was still called GP2 or stuff like that. That
Yeah.
they had the fastest lap, and there was a driver. I can't remember for the sake of me who the fuck the driver was, but that guy basically, it was all over the fucking place. He was always qualifying last, and he was, always on, outside. I mean, it was terrible. And the 2 last laps, he just, get new tires and make the fast lap every fucking time. At the end of the season, he made something like 20 points, just for lap times.
Yeah.
Uh, and they said, listen, this is absurd, right? Because it's not really good.
Yeah. No, there's just no point to doing that.
Yeah,
Obviously, Otherwise, if you may as well just like obviously get in the pits, put the minimum fuel in, and get on with it.
right.
So
Yeah.
anyway, it's I think it's a bit artificial. I'm not really that keen on it, because the only time that the top teams are ever going to go for it is when they have such a huge lead that it's still not going to be interesting. And even then, why would they? If you're winning the race and you're getting 7 points on the second place, why would you? You know. So maybe it'll make the drivers do something stupid, but then they're the best drivers in the world. So why would they? You know, it seems like a gimmick to me. I'm not happy with it at all.
I mean, no,
but we'll see how it goes.
I kind of like it. I don't know. I mean, I think there's something about it. And again, you know, it's another factor, you know, that you put into the championship. It's not something that I don't think is going to make the difference at the end, but it might be. So if it does, it's going to be tricky. So I don't know.
Yeah. I guess if you're having a bad race, like you're Lewis Hamilton or Vettel, you're having a bad race, you know, you're only in 9th or 10th or something like that. Yeah, it might be worth it to go for it, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I just think it's a gimmick. So, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know. You never know with Formula One. Okay, we've got the next race in 2 weeks' time, of course. Bahrain in the desert. So again, it's a beautiful track, but pretty uneventful. So it'd be interesting to see how the DRS works, drag reduction system works there, with a huge long straight that they have. And yeah, maybe that'll make the difference. At least it'll be closer to a season, closer to other tracks in the season. So we should get a better idea of how Ferrari are doing. It's going to be hot. So if they have temperature issues, they're going to suffer again. Unless they open up the cooling anyway. So
I think that by Bahrain they will. I mean, whatever problem they had, if that was a problem, they would have sorted it out. And also, Bahrain is also much more of a proper track than Australia. So yeah, it's hot. It's in a weird place. Nobody wants to go there, but it's a little bit more of a track. So I think that we will begin to see some real values in the cars.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although if it is overheating, that's Ferrari's problem. Of course, they can't open the cooling up, or they can't get more cooling without increasing drag, and that's going to be a real issue that you can't just solve overnight. So it's going to take more than 2 weeks to get that sorted, I think.
I don't know. I mean, if
that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the problem they had, if they haven't sorted out by Bahrain, it's gonna be a disaster. I mean, because really, I mean, if my theory is right, they realized that in Barcelona. So that was what 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. So they have. I mean. Yeah, so they have the race and then another 2 weeks. In 1 month, they will be able to sort it out. If they can't, it's way bigger than they think it is. And that's another kind of worms. So
yeah. If it's heating, mark my words, that's a huge issue.
Oh, yeah.
And, we're going to have a long season for that. It'll be halfway through. Normally, the cars, once they do a problem like that, normally the upgrade doesn't come till Spain,
Yeah, if it is temperature and they haven't sorted out by Bahrain, I wouldn't say it's over, but it's going to be really uphill.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, we'll see.
Okay. So I look forward to seeing everybody in 2 weeks' time. I look forward to talking to you again, Fabio. Thank you so much for the hangout. And
you're welcome.
yeah, and go, go, go. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers, then.